it always comes down to when am I going to start recording live? When is it actually going to pick up? It's probably picked up now. So, good evening. Welcome everybody to my live stream, A Flawed Man. My name is Stuart Davis. I'm a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia, and I'm here to just give you some exposure to what I consider an average Christian's um, attitude towards the Bible. A lot of my takes, and just for folks who are curious or want to learn about the Bible without getting a sermon, or with getting a more lay person's reactions to things. That's me right here. That's what I'm here to represent. So we are in the middle of Genesis right now, and actually getting towards the latter end of Genesis now with the account of Joseph. Joseph is a younger son, but a favored son of Jacob, who is now called Israel. That's foreshadowing. If Israel seems like a familiar name to you, that's foreshadowing for what's going to be happening later on in the Bible. But Joseph is a favored son, makes his brothers jealous. They throw him into a pit, then pull him out, then sell him into slavery. He gets bought as a slave in Egypt, becomes successful in Egypt, runs afoul of his master's wife, so gets thrown in jail, helps some people in jail out. One of them lives and forgets about him until later. Then he ends up coming in front of Pharaoh, gives Pharaoh some good information. Pharaoh puts him in charge of things, and he is running the show right now. He is running the show because they've had a surplus of and an abundance of crops for the last few years, and now they're in the middle of a famine, and he's managing all of this. Well, the famine is worldwide, apparently, and that includes his family. And his family knows where to go get food. They know to get food in Egypt. So they go down to Egypt. They go to buy some stuff. They don't recognize Joseph because it's been 10 or so years since this happened, and now and Joseph is all clean and he's clean, well dressed. He's dressed like an Egyptian. He's probably got that eyeliner, the guy liner on. Probably not looking the most macho of folks, but but he is definitely looking different, and so they don't recognize him, but he recognizes them because they haven't changed at all. So he plays a little prank, calls them spies, questions them harshly, continues to call them spies, and then agrees that they can leave as long as they leave one of his brothers behind. He's going to throw him in jail, and they can go back, but they got to bring their youngest brother back with them. And while he does that, and they finally agree, he sneaks the money that they paid for the food back into the sack. So when they find that, they think that they don't know how it got in there, but they know that it's going to be assumed that they just made off with the food in the middle of a famine, which probably is not going to bode well for them. So they tell their dad about it. Their dad is obviously ticked off about the whole thing because he's got a son that he thinks is dead. He's got another son who's now in jail in an Egyptian jail, and they're asking for his youngest son to come with them when they all pretty much think that there's a price on their heads at this point because they made off with food that they did not pay for. Not good to make enemies with the Egyptians, especially not at this time. Egypt's a big empire at this point. So we are going to get into things here. I'm going to why is it saying my feed is empty? Wait. Let me rephrase. Facebook's so hard to navigate with this. Look, I feel like a boomer doing this, but at the same time, this should be an easier way to do this. Oh, look, okay, I am still live. Good. So, thank you for your patience on that. And now, I will pull up Bible Gateway, share screen. Nothing collapses. Hey, things are running good. So, where we left off, Joseph is still he's getting I think he's getting him some amusement out of this, but it's also coming at a cost of his there's some homesickness there because he's seeing his family, and they said he had to turn around at one point and cry, and so he had to do that. So he's also he's he's probably a roller coaster of emotions, but he's still back in Egypt, and we're going to pick up with with Israel and his sons as we start in chapter 43. All right, second journey to Egypt. Of course they're going to come back. They can't just leave him there, right? Now the famine was still severe in the land, so when they had eaten all the grain they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go back and buy us a little more food." But Judah said to him, "The man warned us solemnly, 'You will not see my face again unless your brother is with you. If you will send our brother along with us, we will go down and buy food for you. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. Because the man said to us, 'You will not see my face again unless your brother is with you.'" No. Why is nobody saying, "Hey, we do have another brother who's being held captive"? Nobody seems to care about that. They're caring about food, which you should care about because it's going to keep you alive. But nobody's like, "Hey, we really need to take Benjamin because Simeon's in jail right now, being held as a hostage, and we have no plans to go back." Man, now I mean, I guess we know it's easy to get if it's easy to get rid of one brother like they did, maybe it's easy to get rid of the other. But if you don't remember from last night, there was some remorse. There was significant remorse, it seemed, because as soon as something bad happened to him, they immediately melted down and said, "This is because of what we did to Joseph." So that's probably every bad thing that's happened to him since Joseph got sold into slavery. They're probably like, "This is because of what we did to Joseph. He was so good, but we hated him so much because our dad was so favoritive." Israel asked, "Why did you bring this trouble on me by telling the man you had another brother?" They replied, "The man questioned us closely about ourselves and our family. 'Is your father still living?' he asked us. 'Do you have another brother?' We simply answered his questions. How were we to know?" He would say, "Bring your brother down here." Then Judah said to Israel his father, "Send the boy along with me, and we will go at once, so that we and you and our children may live and not die. I myself will guarantee his safety. You can hold me personally responsible for him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him here before you, I will bear the blame before you all of my life. As it is, if we had not delayed, we could have gone and returned twice." Fair point. Judah's standing up, but Judah seems to be a lot like Jacob, as we also know from a couple of nights ago. Judah's got some indiscretions, right? And if he takes a lot after his dad, that means he's not always the most reliable person to get stuff done, especially when when it involves sticking his own neck out. But he's doing it here, right? I'm guaranteeing my safety. But if I was Jacob and if I knew Judah, I'm probably sitting here going, maybe it's better if I take Reuben up on his offer, because Reuben seems to be the more steadfast. But Judah makes a good point. Look, if you hadn't held us here because you're attached to your youngest son more than probably the rest of us, we could have done this twice by now, and we wouldn't be hungry and next to starving. Then their father Israel said to them, "If it must be, then do this. Put some of the best products of the land in your bags and take them down to the man as a gift. A little balm, a little honey, some spices and myrrh, some pistachio nuts and almonds." Hey, pistachio nuts and almonds. I don't like nuts, but I love pistachios. No matter how rich I am, a gift of pistachios always makes me smile. "Take double the amount of silver with you, for you must return the silver that was put back into the mouths of your sack. Perhaps it was a mistake. Take your brother also, and go back to the man at once. And may God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, so that he will let your older brother and Benjamin come back with you. As for me, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved." So we see Jacob here. He's basically surrendered at this point. Family's got to eat. I know I love Benjamin. I'm super attached to him, but I'm going to lose him and everybody else if we don't eat. So go ahead. But he's being smart. Take some gifts with you. You know, Jacob's pretty well off. Take some gifts for you, with you. Pay double what you were supposed to bring, what you initially were going to pay, as kind of a, hey, we're sorry for this misunderstanding. We'll pay double. It's a good gesture. It's a good gesture. It's fair. So the men took the gifts and double the amount of silver, and Benjamin also. They hurried down to Egypt and presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of his house, "Take these men to my house, slaughter an animal, and prepare a meal. They are to eat with me at noon." The man did as Joseph told him, and then took the men to Joseph's house. Now the men were frightened when they were taken to his house. They thought, "We were brought here because of the silver that was put back into our sacks the first time. He wants to attack us and overpower us and seize us as slaves and take our donkeys." Oh no, not the donkeys. So they went up to Joseph's steward and spoke to him at the entrance to the house. "We beg your pardon, our lord," they said. "We came down here the first time to buy food. But at the place where we stopped for the night, we opened our sacks, and each of us found his silver, the exact weight, in the mouth of his sack. So we have brought it back with us. We have also brought additional silver with us to buy food. We don't know who put our silver in our sacks." "It's all right," he said. "Don't be afraid. Your God, the God of your father, has given you treasure in your sacks. I received your silver." Then he brought Simeon out with him. So the mind games are going on. "Oh no, I didn't. I've been paid. I guess your God has blessed you." "Joseph, you know what you're doing. But be careful though. You're lying, talking about God. You know, even if it's all in good fun. Even if it's to teach a lesson, you gotta be careful." Then he brought Simeon out to them. The steward took the men into Joseph's house, gave them water to wash their feet, and provided fodder for their donkeys. They prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon because they had heard that they were to eat there. When Joseph came home, they presented him the gifts they had brought into the house, and they bowed down before him to the ground. He asked them how they were, and then he said, "How is your aged father you told me about? Is he still living?" They replied, your servant, our father, is still alive and well." And they bowed down, prostrating themselves before him. As he looked about and saw his brother Benjamin, his own mother's son, he asked, "Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about?" And he said, "God be gracious to you, my son." Deeply moved at the sight of his brother, Joseph hurried out and looked for a place to weep. He went to his private room and wept there. So Joseph's having a difficult time keeping the charade up and keeping his emotions in check. Now, this is what we can assume about Benjamin. When this happened with Joseph, this whole thing, Benjamin was still a kid, right? Especially when you're a kid, a lot changes over the course of 10 or so years. So now we see Benjamin grown up. They were probably pretty close because Joseph seems like he's spending a lot of time at the house. Benjamin's definitely spending a lot of time around the house when everybody's still together. And they're probably, they're full brothers. They share the same mom. Benjamin probably gets a fair amount of doting from his dad, just like Joseph is, but just not to the extent that Joseph was getting. So they're probably pretty close. And out of everybody, that's probably who Joseph missed the most. And now he's seeing how much of Benjamin's life he's missed out on. He's been successful, he's done these things, and he's had a roller coaster of a life at this point. But and while he is very successful and he's really setting his family up for success, they don't know it. But still, while he's been doing all this, he's missed out on time with his brother. And if you have a brother that you care about deeply, like I do, that would be time away that would be deeply affecting, and it would deeply affect me. I'm not running out of the room to cry, but he is. So after he had washed his face, he came out, controlling himself, and said, "Serve the food." He probably said it all manly because he ran off like, "Oh, I gotta go, guys." Come back. "Serve the food." They served him by himself, the brothers by themselves, and the Egyptians who with him by themselves, because Egyptians could not eat with Hebrews, for that is detestable to Egyptians. Got some segregation going on. Still, Joseph's successful, and he is the right hand of the Pharaoh right now, but still not allowed to eat with the Egyptians. The men had been seated before him in the order of their ages, from the firstborn, Reuben, to the youngest, Benjamin, and they looked at each other in astonishment. When portions were served to them from Joseph's table, Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as anyone else's. So they feasted and drank freely with him. I don't know if I'm going to be able to eat 5 times more than everybody else. But it's a gesture of favoritism. That runs pretty pretty well in Jacob's line, I guess. Chapter 44, silver cup in a sack. Now, Joseph still not recognized by anybody. Now Joseph gave these instructions to the steward of his house. Fill the men's sacks with as much food as they can carry, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack. Then put my cup, the silver one, in the mouth of the youngest one's sack, along with the silver for his grain. And he did as Joseph said. As morning dawned, the men were sent away with their donkeys. They had not gone far from the city when Joseph said to his steward, "Go after those men at once, and when you catch up with them, say to them, 'Why have you repaid good with evil? Isn't this the cup my master drinks from, and also uses for divination? This is a wicked thing you have done.'" When he caught up with them, he repeated those words to him. But they said to him, "Why does my lord say such things? Far be it from your servants to do anything like that. We even brought back to you from the land of Canaan the silver we found inside the mouths of our sacks. So why would we steal silver or gold from your master's house? If any of your servants is found to have it, he will die, and the rest of us will become my lord's slaves." Now, personally, one of the things I'm steadfast about is that I don't bet on anything unless I am absolutely certain it's a sure thing. If I knew for myself, I'm betting on this. If I'm in there, and if it was me and my brother, I'm gonna trust my brother. But if it was me and 10 other of my brothers, no, I'm gonna be like, well, I know I didn't do it. One of these other rascals might have, but they're looking out for each other. They're sticking together. Good for them. They are setting themselves up, because while they don't think they've got it, we all already know. "Very well then," he said. "Let it be as you say. Whoever is found to have it will become my slave. The rest of you will be free from blame." Okay. Each of them quickly lowered his sack to the ground and opened it. Then the steward proceeded to search, beginning with the oldest and ending with the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Well, they probably thought that they were home free when by the time they got to Benjamin. At this time, they tore their clothes. Then they all loaded their donkeys and returned to the city. Joseph was still in the house when Judah and his brothers came in, and they threw themselves to the ground before him. Joseph said to them, "What is this that you have done? Don't you know that a man like me can find things out by divination?" You're laying this on a little thick, Joseph. "What can we say to my lord?" Judah replied. "What can we say? How can we prove our innocence? God has uncovered your servant's guilt. We are now my lord's slaves, we ourselves, and the one who was found to have had the cup." But Joseph said, "Far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man who was found to have the cup will become my slave. The rest of you go back to your father in peace." Then Judah went up to him and said, "Pardon your servant, my lord. Let me speak a word to my lord. Do not be angry with your servant, though you are equal to Pharaoh himself. My lord had asked his servants, 'Do you have a father or a brother?' And we answered, 'We have an aged father, and there is a young son born to him in his old age. His brother is dead, and he is the only one of his mother's sons left, and his father loves him. Then you said to your servants, Bring him down to me so that I can see him for myself. And we said to my lord, The boy cannot leave his father. If he leaves him, his father will die. But you told your servants, Unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you will not see my face again. When we went back to your servant, my father, we told him what my lord had said. Then our father said, Go back and buy a little more food. But we said, We cannot go down. Only if our youngest brother is with us will we go. We cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Your servant, my father, said to us, You know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One of them went away from me, and I said, he has surely been torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. If you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you will bring my gray head down to the grave in misery. So now, if the boy is not with us when I go back to your servant my father, and if my father, whose life is closely bound up with the boy's life, sees that the boy isn't there, he will die. Your servant will bring the gray head of our father down to the grave in sorrow. Your servant guaranteed the boy's safety to my father. I said, if I do not bring him back to you, I will bear the blame before you, my father, all my life. Now then, please, let your servant remain here as my lord's slave in place of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. How can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? No, do not let me see the misery that would come on my father. Whoa, Judah! Now, he's recounting the story, but at the end here he says, he's like, take me instead. He could have said, oh, tough luck, Benjamin. You guess you shouldn't have stolen that cup. We're all going to go back, and then, I'm going to catch some grief from my dad, and he might never, ever forgive me. But hey, whatever. But he cares about his brother, and he cares about his dad. All right? And that seems to be, that's a recurring thing. Jacob's kids love him. And that was part of why they were so upset and jealous of Joseph, because Joseph was getting all the attention. They love him deeply. And Judah is no different, because, as much as a scoundrel as he can be, he cares about family. And when it came time to man up, he does it, and he offers himself up to say, hey, I'll be a slave. I've got family at home. I think he's still got a wife. I can't remember. He's got women and kids at home. He goes, but I'm going to give them up. Send Benjamin home instead of me, because I do not want to do that to I don't want to do that to my dad. It's probably deeply moving. Joseph makes himself known, chapter 45. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all of his attendants, and he cried out, have everyone leave my presence. Have everybody leave my presence. Yeah. So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. It's weird. Whatever that means. Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still living? But his brothers were not able to answer him, because they were terrified at his presence. Yeah, I'm the one you sold into slavery, and now I'm all powerful. And he's also very emotional right now. He's probably like, cracking, the voice cracking. So they don't know what's going on. Dude's having a conniption right in front of him. Then Joseph said to his brothers, come close to me. And when they had done, group hug everybody. And when they had done so, he said, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now, do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household and ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me. You, your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. You can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that it is really I who am speaking to you. Tell my father all about the honor accorded me in Egypt, and about everything you have seen, and bring my father down here quickly. Then he threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and wept, and Benjamin embraced him, weeping, and he kissed all his brothers and wept over them, and wah, boo-hoo, after his brothers talked with him. Anyways, moving part. My jokes aside, my kidding aside, moving moment here. And Joseph is basically, Joseph, ultimate humility. I'm not taking credit for any of this. I mean, Joseph's attitude's amazing because throughout the whole thing, because he doesn't let the bad things, misfortunes upon him, get him down. We've talked about that. But when he's talking to his brothers, he doesn't say, "Look at what I did. Look at what I overcame. Look at how I still love you, even though you bastards sold me into slavery." No, he said, "Look at what God has done. God put me here for a reason, and it was to save the family. So I'm not holding any of y'all in contempt. Besides, I got this great prank I played on you, and it's family feast time's always going to involve me telling your kids about how I totally got you guys to believe that y'all were going to be slaves." But most out of this, you can tell he's missed his brothers, he's missed his dad. Go get my dad, tell him how great I've become, and bring him down here quickly. He wants to see his dad. He loved his dad, loves his dad, wants to see him immediately. Couldn't. Now that everything, I mean, it's probably an intense amount of will. He's being all weepy and emotional, but he's homesick. He's homesick for family. He's probably not homesick to be home. He's probably happy where he's living. But he wants his family around him. He wants them to share in his good fortune that God has blessed him with, because God is using him as a vehicle to further his promise with Abraham, to further his promise with Isaac, to further his promise to Jacob, who is now Israel. When the news reached Pharaoh's palace that Joseph's brothers have come, Pharaoh and all of his officials were pleased. "Good on you, Pharaoh." Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers, do this, load your animals and return to the land of Canaan, and bring your father and your families back to me. I will give you the best land of Egypt, and you can enjoy the fat of the land." You are also directed to tell them, "Do this, take some carts from Egypt for your children and your wives, and get your father to come. Never mind about your belongings, because the best of all Egypt will be yours." So, awesome move on behalf of a very benevolent and probably a very thankful Egyptian pharaoh, who has seen, who recognizes that his not just his reign, but his entire kingdom and people were facing disaster that they did not know was coming. But he gets this dream, and he doesn't know what to make of it, and nobody he knows around him makes of it. But he gets word from his cupbearer that there's a man in prison who can tell dreams. He gets up there, he calls for him, man tells him what the dream is, and he's very accurate. And he's so earnest in this that that Pharaoh feels like he should be able to take care of and manage this stuff. And not only does he come through for that, but he does so, tenfold or many times over, as Pharaoh's expectations. So he realizes that the gift that Joseph has and the blessings that God is putting on him. So again, smart Egyptians right now, recognizing when God is with the Hebrews and making the best out of the situation. I think that what we'll find in the future is they may not always be as smart as this. So what Pharaoh does here is just basically goes, "Go, bring the whole family back, bring the whole family back here, and y'all can live here, and I'll set you up on the best estates that we have, and the fat of the land will be yours." So he is, we have a very thankful Pharaoh. He goes, "Of course, I'm in the middle of a famine, so the best of our lands are still pretty rotten right now, but it's still yours." So the sons of Israel did this. Joseph gave them carts as Pharaoh had commanded, and he also gave them provisions for their journey. To each of them he gave new clothing, but to Benjamin he gave 300 shekels of silver and 5 sets of clothes, 5 times over. Maybe he should have given them a grand coat of many colors. And this is what he sent to his father: 10 donkeys loaded with the best things of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread and other provisions for his journey. Then he sent his brothers away, and as they were leaving, he said to them, "Don't quarrel on the way." Stop! Don't fight. I don't want, I don't want 10 of you coming back because you sold another one into slavery or threw him down a well. So they went up out of Egypt and came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. They told him, "Joseph is still alive. In fact, he is ruler of all Egypt." Jacob was stunned. Yeah, he did not believe them. But when they told him everything Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the carts Joseph had sent to carry him back, the spirit of their father Jacob revived. And Israel said, here we go, Jacob going into Israel. Israel said, I am convinced my son Joseph is alive. I will go and see him before I die. And we're going to end on that note. Is he going to make it back in time? Come on, we got a lot of blessings here. I'm more interested in this little part that they don't go over. Oh, Joseph's alive. What do you mean he's alive? You brought me a coat. It was torn to shreds with blood all over it. Oh, yeah, we don't know about that, but he's still alive. Must not have been his coat. Did they come up with a story there? They go, well, Dad, actually, what happened was we sold him into slavery because we were sick of you doting on him and ignoring the rest of us. And how would Jacob have, or maybe they tried to lie and then Jacob found him out. Who knows? Who knows how that's happened? I really would like to know what his attitude was concerning that. Because I would have knocked some heads together if it was me. If you'd have deprived me of a son for that long, especially one that would be my favorite. Like I said, I don't understand that dynamic, but if he was my favorite and y'all took him away from me and lied to me about it, and all this time when I could have gone back and gotten him, bop, smacking some people around. But what we say here, this is an ending. Are we at the end yet? But no, so far out of this, we're in good times right now. We're in good times, and Jacob is his spirit's lifted. He probably is resigned by the time when he leaves, when Benjamin leaves. He's probably got a ton of apprehension while they're gone, even more so when they're coming back, until he can account for everybody. But then he sees they're coming back with all this extra stuff, which I don't understand why they send so many of the other things, because they're like, look, you're going to be turning around and coming right back, right? I don't know. Maybe it was a sign. Everybody's about these big to-dos, and that's I don't understand it. I'm much more practical and be like, what? Just send me a chariot, right, so I can get back faster. Give me the fastest horse, I'll ride him. Fastest camel or whatever. So that's where we're at. Like I said, Joseph's a good guy. And this is why Joseph's attitude through all this is why I think he was always a genuinely nice guy, always a genuinely, just so innocent to a fault that he comes off as ignorant of what is going on around him. But there is a case to be made that maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was a little smart ass about things, and maybe he was. And maybe maybe being sold into slavery gave him an attitude adjustment, and then the other couple of things gave him some more attitude adjusting. But that's not where I'm coming from. But again, regardless of his origin, what we see now is where he's at now, and this is where people can disagree, and it's nice to have these theoretical arguments when you've got when everything's kind of in good fun, as long as the people that are arguing both understand Joseph is a remarkable human being in Genesis. He's a remarkable human being, and he sets up all these things. Again, as we see, especially in the Pentateuch, everything's building up. Everything's building up for what we're going to see in the New Testament. This is before the prophets and everything. This is laying the foundation. This is God's original covenant. I shouldn't say that. Probably not his original covenant. We could say the original covenant was with Adam, maybe. Again, but there we're laying the foundation for what the Hebrew faith, what the Jewish faith, what the Israelites are all going to be operating under, and why Jesus is going to be necessary when he arrives. Now, and why it's not going to be, when he comes, it's not going to be just limited to the Israelites. It's not going to be just limited to the Jews. So, with that said, I hope you've all had a great evening. I'm going to get back and do some more Halo playing. Very, very happy with having I've been out of a lot of new gaming for a while, Getting back into it a little bit, but that's what I do. That's what I do. And I watch baseball when it's going on. When it's baseball season, it's not baseball season, and usually I got a video game on while I'm watching the game. So, and now I'm streaming. So, be interested to see how I handle this. I definitely like what I'm doing right now, but it'd be interesting to see how I split time between this and my Cincinnati Reds games when they're on at the same time. I'm going to be streaming. We shall see. But we're not worried about that right now. We're worried about learning. So in the meantime, you guys have a great Friday. My plan is possibly stream tomorrow, but again, if the kids are up here trying to sleep, I'm not going to disturb them by live streaming. So this might be a Sunday night thing when we get back together. So cliffhanger, right? Or you can just pick up the Bible and read. We're at chapter 45. You can just start at chapter 46. Of course, then you wouldn't get to hear me read it, and then you wouldn't get to hear all of my stupid ad libs about it.